So we're reading today from the second canto, chapter 9, texts 33 to 35.
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah.
Brahma, it is I, the personality of God, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of God. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead.
O Brahma, whatever appears to give any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be darkness. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos, and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist in everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything.
Okay, so this is working. I think the other one was better. Tricky. Oh, no. Okay.
Did we do this?
Yeah, it's just 3 verses according to you. 33 to 35, right? Okay. All right, so we're focusing on 33 today, actually. Ahameva samevade.
Ahameva samevade.
Nanyanyasada satpadam. Padaham yade chacha. Yovaishishe tasosmyaham. That one's a little tricky. It's like a smyah. That's how you make it. That's how you make it work. It's smyaham. So I'll go through it one more time and then you guys can do it. Ahameva samevagre. Nanyad yatsada satpadam. Paschadaham yade tacha. Yovisheshe tasosmyaham.
Eva sameva
Paschadaham yade tacha. Ahameva samevagre. Nanyad yatsada satpadam. Paschadaham yade tacha. Yovashisheta tasosmyaham. Anyone else? Ahameva samevagre. Nanyad satpadam. Paschadaham yade tacha. Yogashisheta tasosmyaham. All right, let's do the word for word together. Aham. Wait, Aham, I, the personality of Godhead. Eva, certainly. Awesome, existed. Eva, only. agre, before the creation, na, never, anyat, anything else, yat, all those, sat, the effect, asat, the cause, padam, the supreme, paschat, at the end, aham, I, the personality of God, yet all these, etat, creation, sha, also, everything. Avashishyeta remains. Sa, that. Asmi, I am. Aham, I, the personality of Godhead. And the translation together? It is I, the personality of Godhead, who is existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, personality of Godhead. So Nate, don't go down to the purport yet. So the purport is super, super long. So we're going to just read certain paragraphs from this purport and talk about them. And then there's another part of the purport in the next verse that I want to talk about a bit. So let's see, we're going to start with, there's in this, so when Prabhupada teaches Krishna consciousness, he repeats a lot of things so that you can never, ever, 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 ever be mistaken that he's saying something else. So he doesn't just say something and move on. He says something and then he says it again. And then he explains it in a different way. And then he explains it in a different way. So from every angle, you can't say, I'm not really sure that's what Prabhupada means or that's what he's trying to say. People do that. But if you actually read Prabhupada's books, you can see pretty quickly that, no, that's actually not what he's saying at all. And he says it a million times in every direction. So in this, especially when he's really trying to make a point. So in this purport, I went through it and saw like the conclusions of some of the things that he was saying, because it's really, really long, but I suggest you all read it. The purport, it's a very nice purport. So we're going to kind of do some of the summary paragraphs of what Prabhupada's saying. So first we're going to go to paragraph 2. The creator I, starts off the creator I, yeah. So who would like to read this paragraph and then they this one, just let them read this one. Oh, sorry. Were you on your way to Godhead? Okay. Kunti, you're next in line. I'll get you on the next one.
The creator I and the created I are both accepted in the Vedas as qualitatively one because both of them are nityas and chetanas. But the singular I is the creator, the creator I, and the created I. Sorry.
It's yes, you want to say.
I was thinking I want to say bless you, Stephen, but I was reading. And the created eyes are a plural number because there are many eyes, like Brahma and those generated by Brahma. It is the simple truth. The Father creates or begets a son, and the Son also creates many other sons, and all of them may be one as human beings, but at the same time from the Father, the Son and the grandsons are all different. The Son cannot take the place of the Father, nor can the grandsons. Simultaneously, the Father, the Son, and the grandson are one and different also. As human beings, they are one, but as relatives, they are different. Therefore, the relatives of the Creator and the created, or the predominator and the predominated, have been differentiated in the Vedas by saying that the predominator is the feeder of the predominated eyes, and thus there is a vast difference between the two principles of I.
Okay, so this is in the first paragraph. He's basically he's addressing what the impersonalists are saying, claiming that we're all one, or that there's no difference. There's that the different eyes are all just one eye. So Prabhupada's separating it into two eyes and giving very thorough explanation about how they're different. As always citing his sources, he cites the which he touches on briefly in this paragraph, is this from the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. So he says that both of them are nityas and chaitanas. So what does that mean? What are nityas and what are chaitanas? What are nityas? Yeah, what are chaitanas? Yeah, conscious, yeah. So they're both there, they're both eternal, they're both conscious, but there's a difference between the two. And so this ego bahunam yo vidadati, come on, there's one that's just in one category by himself. That's actually what param means. Like paramatma, we say paramatma. Param means the other one, actually. It's translated as supreme, but it means supreme because it means there's one in a category by itself, different from all others. So param is the other one. So paramatma means the other soul, the one that's in his category by himself. And so that's what this Katha Upanishad verse is saying also, that there are the many and then there's the one. So the one is the param. And so Prabhupada's separating that out in this purport. He's saying that there's the creator I and then there's the created eyes. So throughout this paragraph, you keep seeing him saying there's I and then there's eyes and I and eyes and I and eyes. And so he's saying there's that one, the one that created, and then there's the several. And I like this, I like his example that he gives here. The father begets a son, the son also creates many other sons, but they're all different. They come from the same source, but they're all individuals. And so Krishna is that source, that one I, and then he creates all the others and they're all individuals. Let's see if there's anything else I want to touch on in this paragraph. Oh, okay. And then he said, as human beings, they are one, but as relativities, they are different. Therefore, the relativities of the creator and the created, or the predominator and the predominated, have been differentiated in the Vedas by saying that the predominator I is the feeder of the predominated eyes, and thus there is a vast difference between the two principles of I. So he's saying relativity. So meaning when something's relative, it means it's related to another thing. So as souls, we are all related to Krishna as the predominated eyes, as the created eyes. So that's the relativity. And spiritually speaking, that's the only relativity. In the material world, the material world is basically relative. So what does it mean, materially speaking, for something to be relative rather than absolute? Bruce, let's go with Bruce.
It means that relative, that there's something to compare it to.
Right.
Relative means that there's something to compare it to. What was the other word?
Absolute.
Absolute. You can't compare it to anything. It's
Okay.
absolute.
It just is what it is. So relative would be, for example, something's relative. If you said, is 69 degrees hot or cold? What would you say? It depends. It depends. It's relative. If it's 100 degrees outside, 69 is cold. If it's 0 degrees outside, 69 is really hot. And so that's what this world is. It's all kind of these relativities. They aren't absolute truths. 69 is not absolutely hot or absolutely cold. It depends. Depends on other things. So Krishna is God, not relatively speaking. He's not like, is Krishna God? Yes. The answer is just yes. Is 69 degrees cold? No, maybe sometimes, but is Krishna God? He's always God under all circumstances. And the souls are always servants of Krishna under all circumstances. And so in this world, we try to imagine like, yeah, no, I'm probably not a servant. I'm probably God. I'm probably the center. Everything probably should revolve around me. And so there's that illusion, which is we're going to talk about a little further, is that we're thinking, yeah, here I'm God. Maybe in the spiritual world I'm not, but I'm not even sure about that, which is why I came here. So I wanted to check it out. I'm not sure if that's true. But it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter. Krishna's God and you're his servant. And so Prabhupada gives the example of a law, right? If you don't know the law somewhere, you're still held responsible if you break it. So you have to know. So read Bhagavatam every day so you don't break the spiritual laws. And so you know you're not God. And you're chanting too. We're going to talk about that. Anyways, there's lots of good stuff here. But I don't want to jump ahead, but there's always so much nectar in Prabhupada's purports and these verses. All right, so the next paragraph we're going to do, which is going to be starring Kunti as the narrator, is paragraph 4. So skip the next paragraph and go down to the one that starts with the other feature of the statement. Yep, there you go.
The other feature of the statement is that the supreme truth is Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead and his kingdom have already been explained. The kingdom of Godhead is not void as conceived by the impersonalists. The Vaikuntha planets are full of transcendental variegatedness, including the four-handed residents of those planets, with great opulence of wealth and prosperity, and there are even airplanes and other amenities required for high-grade personalities. Therefore, the personality of Godhead exists before the creation, and he exists with all transcendental variegatedness in the Vaikuntha Lokas. The Vaikuntha Lokas also accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as being of the Sanatan nature are not annihilated even after the annihilation of the manifested cosmos. Those transcendental planets are of a different nature altogether, and that nature is not subjected to the rules and regulations of material creation, maintenance, or annihilation. The existence of the personality of Godhead implies the existence of the Vaikuntha Lokas, as the existence of a king implies the existence of a kingdom.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking even further as we're reading this that we see this, people have an experience in this world, they have bad experiences. It's becoming more commonplace as Kali Yuga progresses that you pretty much have a bad experience growing up. It's almost comes with the territory. But even in Yuga's past, people still had bad experiences. It just, people were a little more civilized back then, but now it just becomes so degraded. And so when people have that experience, they think, well, having people around and having parents or someone above you is a really bad thing. It's just not good. So let's just get rid of it. So then it turns into, yeah, there's probably no variety actually. There probably are no people because people are just, they kind of stuck. So, we go through that in our life. We think about that when we run into some situation or some difficulty. It's like, this sucks. People suck. You can go through that in some parts of your life. And then people start to think when they don't have Krishna consciousness or some sort of spiritual path, they start to think that, well, you just do away with it. And so for them, spirituality means there isn't any of this stuff. There's no version of it that could possibly be good. And so there's just no version of it. And so to think of all this variegatedness or variety, to kind of imagine that, trying to think of a good example that doesn't offend anybody. Yeah, just what? I'm trying to get over past my traumas too. Yeah, I'm leaving. So here's what I have to say. That Mark Twain wrote this book about all the gossip of all the people he knew that did stupid stuff, and he said not to read it for 100 years so that they would be dead by the time you read about them. And they just opened it like a few years ago to see who he wrote. Yeah, it was like a gossip book, and then he had that kind of, yeah, I think he was jaded. So imagine a situation where you go to a festival and maybe whoever they got to cook just did a really bad job and everything was disorganized and it was cold and nothing worked the way it was supposed to and stuff. And then someone came and said, in the spiritual world, there's unlimited situations like this. It's unlimited people, there's unlimited festivals. And you're like, no, thanks. This was like such a bad experience. But it's just in the material world, because we're in that consciousness of trying to lord it over, things end up clashing and stuff like that. Of course, I'm giving a really bad example in terms of like things going wrong. Most Hare Krishna festivals are fun and happy. some things go wrong, but for the most part, everyone's pretty blissful with chanting and things. I'm just trying to give an example of how a person may come to that conclusion that I don't want to be somewhere where there's lots of that going on. So they kind of impose their conception of the way things go wrong here with it must be also like that in the spiritual world. But there's no rational reason to think it can't be better somewhere else. There's just no rational reason. Just because we can't get it right here doesn't mean no one else can get it right in existence. But that's what ends up being taught. So generally, people who kind of reject the scriptures or misunderstand them, they'll present this other picture of, yeah, wasn't that horrible? Here's a better thing. A better thing is there is no one around. There are no activities. There is no variety. And then it's just peace. You're just peaceful. But they don't realize this is a reflection. Prabhupada says a perverted reflection, kind of taking that word perverted literally, that something's turned around. We tend to use that word very differently in this world. So it can be, when you're teaching others, it could sound a little weird at first. So keep that in mind. When you tell someone something's perverted, just remember what they think it means in this world. So to eventually get them, if they're going to read Prabhupada's purport, at least give them a picture of what it means for something to be kind of turned in the opposite direction. So the example given is a tree. It's next to the water. There's a reflection. And whatever's at the top of the tree, the real tree, is at the bottom in the reflection. So everything's turned upside down. And so if you imagine personal relationships at the top of the tree in the spiritual world, they're turned upside down in this world. So they're kind of like, they're the most difficult thing in this world, right? So in the spiritual world, it's like relationships are just blissful because no one's trying to lord it over, right? They're all just working together to do whatever they can to make Krishna happy. And so it gets turned upside down. And so if you see it that way, that's what it means, a perverted reflection. It means it's turned upside down. And so that, again, leads people to think, it can't possibly be turned around the other way. It can't possibly be amazing. It must just always be like this everywhere, so we have to get rid of it. When situations are really annoying and we have to, it's interesting because oftentimes, just discussing this with a few devotees last week, I think, just about that. Like, how do we deal with that? The idea that we get annoyed. How do we deal with that feeling? And oftentimes we just think what the other side is doing wrong. I'm annoyed because they did this, rather than I'm annoyed because I expect this, or I'm annoyed because I don't see someone's sincere attempt, or I'm annoyed because I expect perfection, or I'm annoyed, we can think of so many reasons why it may be on our side that we're trying to force something on somebody, or we're expecting something we shouldn't be expecting. We're expecting in the material world for conditioned souls to be perfect, and everything they do is perfect, and they never say anything wrong, and they never make mistakes, and they always know how to do everything perfectly. And so, of course, they don't, and neither do we. And to understand that we're all trying our best can help us to be more accepting, less annoyed, less frustrated. And it actually helps each other because you have so many options in those situations. You can either approach it as, let me let this person know how annoying they are, how imperfect they are, everything they did wrong. Or you could approach it as, we can both learn something here. Maybe we can talk about this. Maybe I can express my feelings, and maybe both of us could be made aware of our own anarthas that we have to work on. And so when we approach it like that, we see the world more with compassion. Obviously, there always has to be, even situations when we have to defend ourselves, we can still have some compassion. It doesn't mean we let people walk all over us, right? We don't want to go to that extreme where we say compassion means I let this person abuse me. You may see it and you may step away from it, but you may also understand that in this world, life is very difficult. People have traumas and they have to work them out. So what can I do to help them? Maybe what I can do to help them is just leave them alone and not deal with them. not try to impose anything on them. Or maybe what I can do to help is have a talk with them about how we can improve our relationship. You know, you have to figure it out case by case, but it doesn't mean you allow it to happen to you. You still have to protect yourself and protect others. Okay, anyways, I want to move on because we have a couple more things to read. Does anyone have any points so far or questions, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, the best skill that I ever learned when it comes to conflicts with people is taking that walk every time. Go take that walk or that drive and just separate yourself first every single time.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And then talk to somebody else that's like your mentor. Pick up the phone. Take a walk,
Yeah.
pick up the phone.
Yeah. I once got an email from a friend totally out of the blue with a bunch of accusations like this long and stuff I never realized because she was always kind of just, you know, people are just always friendly in person no matter what. And then all of a sudden you get hit in the head with a baseball or something. It's like, just get this email. Here's what you did and here's what you're like. And here's, you know, and so, I read it and I was ready to hit the keyboard. I was just like, oh yeah. And like instantly before I even finished the email, I was like already like a lawyer, like, well, the thing is in this situation. And my husband at the time, he said, don't answer for at least 3 days. It's exactly what Jonathan's saying. He's like, don't answer for at least 3 days. And and then he said, and then don't even answer, just ask to talk to her in person. And I was like, okay, all right, all right. I was trying to like, you know, so I just closed the computer, waited 3 days, and then I just answered, would you like to meet and talk? And then when we met, she was like, yeah, I got really nervous when you didn't answer. I was like, maybe I went overboard. And, you know, so even on her side, she was a little like, maybe I went too far. And when we talked, it got cleared up so fast. It was within seconds, it got cleared up. It's like, I'm feeling this way. Okay, I didn't mean to blah, blah. And it just got cleared up. We were laughing by the end of the conversation. So that's a good point. It's a really good point because your first reaction is impulse to attack back rather than to like really sit and think about it. And when you're behind a screen, it's very easy to throw out insults and accusations, and it's really easy to like attack back really heavy. But when you're actually sitting there looking at someone, it's a little more difficult. You actually think, okay, we should probably just talk. It's easy to throw punches in a text or an email. So good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could share a little bit more on this misplaced compassion, right? I guess when we come to the spiritual practice,
Mm.
at least I've seen there's a tendency to like, oh yeah, everything is good and you can mistreat me and I have to be more tolerant than a tree and lower than
Yeah,
a blade of grass. So I was just wondering if you could share a little bit.
yeah. I guess back to that point of to be tolerant doesn't mean again to let someone walk all over you. To be tolerant may be to say to yourself, in this world, everyone has difficulty. So I'm gonna, you know, the fact that the person insulted me, I'm not gonna take it personally and attack them back. But it's healthy for both of us if I step away from it, or if I can find some way to make them aware that it was insulting and find some way. And for me, try to always think, do I do this to other people? Have I treated other people this way? Why did Krishna send this person? What am I supposed to learn? Um, but when there is an attack, it's not just like, okay, here I am, start attacking. But more to say like, okay, this isn't healthy, this conversation. I'm going to step away from it. And then maybe we can talk later. And if they don't want to talk later, then okay, you did the best you can. But you're not going away going, God, what a big fat jerk. You know, that's not compassionate. But walking away going, that's not healthy. It's not going to be good for either one of us. I hope that they can work out whatever is causing them to act this way. And I hope I can learn what I did, what I've done in my life to have Krishna send this person to me. Because nothing happens by mistake. Krishna sends people. no matter how annoying they are. Krishna has sent them. So I've noticed what's interesting, you know, those little gnats, like they're always in your face and you're trying to like, I've noticed in my life when I've done things, I would say it's like really not the proper thing to do. I've done some kind of major improper thing. There's always a person who's like, they're always there and they don't stop harassing me. And over the years, I started noticing the pattern, like, wait a minute, every single time I've done this, there's somebody who just won't leave me alone. And so then I noticed over time that when I'm doing things the way I'm supposed to, that doesn't really happen so much. It may come here and there. So we always want to think, do I behave that way? Have I done that? Have I done something to offend somebody? Have I? So you could step back and think about that. But again, it doesn't mean you go and open yourself to abuse. It means you just try to learn from it. And you have compassion for them that, you know, they're doing this because of their conditioning, or they're doing this because of trauma, or they're doing this for whatever. So that's compassion. Understanding that they may have this issue is compassion. And of course, we see that same thing in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Where Arjuna is feeling very compassionate, but he's got a job to do. These people that he's fighting, it's not good for society for them to be in power. It's just not. They're cheaters, and they mistreat not only are they not good leaders, but look at what they did to Draupadi, right? Imagine dragging Draupadi out in an assembly of men. They should be the leader of the kingdom? Hell no. They should not. And if they insist on being so, sorry, meet you on the battlefield. That's the way it is. So compassion, Arjuna may feel like, I'm sorry I have to do this. I'm sorry that they're behaving this way, but I have to protect, I have to protect the citizens, because you don't protect the perpetrator at the expense of the victims. You don't protect the perpetrators at the expense of innocent people. Innocent people come first, because they haven't done anything. They deserve to be protected. And so when someone's attacking, they have to be stopped from attacking innocent people. And that's why we have jails. That's why we have police. I mean, not that they're always perfect, but the principle is there. That's why they had Kshatriyas, because, you know, in Satya Yuga, you didn't need Kshatriyas, because everyone just sat around and meditated. No one didn't know the rules and didn't follow them. It was mode of goodness. They all sat, and it wasn't until Treta Yuga that they started having Varnashram Dharma, because everyone's kind of Varna was rabbinical. They just sat and meditated. So you didn't need government, because no one was attacking anybody. So the more you need Kshatriyas and police and things like that, it just means societies become more uncivilized. People don't follow the rules. People attack innocent people. And you know, you see those, this is what I get in my YouTube feed. It's like body cams on cops. You know, you see like cop walks into a 7-Eleven during a holdup, and everyone loves to see the criminals get caught. And no one wants to see an innocent person getting attacked. They just don't. And every video where the shop owner has his own gun, everyone's like, yes. You know, it's like they don't, because it pisses them off to see some guy come in or some woman come in and attack an innocent victim. No one likes to see that. And so they love when someone can actually protect those people, or they can protect themselves. They like to see that. So it's ingrained in everybody that innocent people should be protected. And then there are just a few people out there who think otherwise, or just don't care, because out of desperation or out of greed, they attack, try to get some money from them. So yeah, so compassion would be, you know, you feel bad, but you do what needs to be done to protect others or protect yourself, and then step back and think about why you got put in that situation.
Hare Krishna. Quick comment is, when you were talking about police and compassion towards abusers, first they shoot the person to stop them from hurting anybody else or himself, and then they immediately go and assist them immediately. So first they take down a danger, and give medical care, take him to the hospital. So it's not like
Right,
they,
right,
they
right.
shoot him and leave him to die. No, they
Right,
immediately
right.
go to hell.
Yeah. There was this one, I saw this one story where, this is just a funny side note. This guy breaks into a house. The woman had just gone to the shooting range with her husband to learn how to shoot a gun for self-defense. So she called her husband, was like, there's someone breaking in the house. And he first told him, he said, go all the way upstairs to the furthest room away possible and hide. He didn't tell her to go shoot him, right? So, and then he said, and keep the gun aimed at so they went, she took her son, they went in this little cubby up in the attic. And he said, just hold the gun pointing at the door. If he comes in, you have to shoot him. So he did. He just would not give up. He came looking for them, opens the door, she shoots him. He gets in his car, starts to drive away and crashes. The police were there by then. They take him to the hospital. And someone interviewed the police and they said, so have you taken him into custody? And he said, no, because I want to pay the hospital bill. So we'll just let him stay here until he's healed and then we'll arrest him as soon as he's ready. They don't want to pay the bill. Anyways, I thought that was funny. I thought that was very clever. So compassion, yeah, bring him to the hospital, let him get healed, give them give him the bill, then we'll take him to jail. So, and then you have, in some countries and in some places, prison really is, in their mind, a rehabilitation center. It's not so true in America, but in other countries it is. We have the highest rate of recidivism, but in other countries the rate is very low because um, they actually teach them how to be proper citizens, how to be productive citizens. They actually teach them how to do that. So when they get out, they don't go back and commit the same crimes out of desperation. So that's compassion. I've arrested you. You've committed a crime. You got to do your time, but let's see how we can improve your life so that when you go back out, you don't have to resort to that again. So that's compassion. Okay. Time is it 8:22? Okay. I did want to quickly go back to trying to think of what the time we have left, which one I want to do first. Okay, there's a really good, let's go to verse 34. And I think the second paragraph, we'll read that really quick because it's such a nice summary example of illusion. And I'll read because I'm not going to read the whole paragraph. I'm just going to read the line that we're going to talk about. So I'm sorry, the verse is, O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. And notice how he says appears to be in darkness. So he's in this paragraph, he says, so you go back down to the second paragraph. Misconceiving one thing for another is called illusion. For example, accepting a rope as a snake is illusion, but the rope is not false. So some groups say the material world is actually false. Has no reality. But that's not what Krishna is saying. It's just saying you think it's one thing, but it's actually not that thing, it's another. So the rope as it exists in the front of the illusioned person is not at all false, but the acceptance is illusory. Therefore, the wrong conception of accepting this material manifestation as being divorced from the energy of the Lord is illusion, but it is not false. And this illusory conception is called the reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. Anything that appears as apparently not being produced of my energy is called Maya. And so that's this world. Every annoying thing we go through, every pain we have, everything, it's just mistaking one thing for another. That's where it all stems from. We see it as separate from Krishna. We see it as something that it's not. And we're seeing ourselves often as something that we're not, even if outwardly we're a Hare Krishna devotee. We believe Krishna's God. We believe he's the center of everything, theoretically. But we act like we're the center of everything, typically. Not every day, not in every occasion, but we often act that way. And so because of that, that's when we start to suffer all kinds of distress because we're actually seeing things not as they actually are, but as our illusioned version of it. So if you see a rope and you think it's a snake, you get scared, you run, you scream, depending on, you know, how you react to things. You scream, you yell, you shoot it, you beat it with a bat, and then the whole time it's just a rope. So in one sense it's kind of comical if you think about it. If you're running and screaming and there's just a rope laying on the ground, it's just kind of comical. And so when you see all the drama of this world, it's like we're running around screaming and yelling and, you know, attacking each other. It's sad, but it's comical too. It's like it's all based on that illusion. I'm preaching to myself too right now. I'm just thinking about it as I'm saying it. It's all based on that illusion. We want to be the center and it's not working. And it's not working because these annoying people won't let it be true. And they're not recognizing how I'm the center. They're not recognizing how it should be my way. They're not, you know, and so you have all this stress and anxiety because the world isn't doing what your illusioned mind thinks it should do. And again, I'm still going to go back to that point that, again, that doesn't mean you just stand there while someone attacks you thinking, well, I'm not the center, so they can attack me. It's not the point, you know, it's still, and other innocent people who also aren't the center, they should still be protected because they're part of Krishna. Krishna's affection for his devotees is so strong, it's so deep that he's more pleased actually when his devotees are pleased. So if you really want to please Krishna, you try to get along with his devotees and work with them together to serve him. That's the most pleasing thing to him. And bringing the souls back who have forgotten about Krishna and you're reminding them, it's very pleasing to Krishna to go out and do that. Because for Krishna, it's like, my kids ran away from home. Can you go find them and bring them back? So that's what we're trying to do. That's the whole reason for us even being here at Krishna House, right? Why we're distributing prasadam and having these programs is because Krishna's kids ran away and he wants us to go gather them back and bring them back and remind them that they have a relationship with him. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure if I want to read the last paragraph or I think just open up for a little discussion and then yeah, there's another whole thing, but I don't have time to go into it. So I would say read this purport when you have a chance and really meditate on it. But I want to open up for questions and comments and realizations and all that fun stuff. Stephen?
Hare Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. This is just a quick comment. I don't know if anyone's familiar with solipsism, but it's this philosophy that some unfortunate person speculated, and basically what it's believing is that only like the individual exists. So if I was like a solipsist or something, whatever, if I believed in solipsism, I would believe that I'm the only conscious being in like the whole world, and that everyone else is just like I can't really know if they have consciousness or not. So it's really unfortunate. Yeah, just this. It's like that's like the epitome of like putting yourself in the center.
So they say that they can't know, but they make absolute statements that they don't exist.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I don't know so specifically, but it's like they're like we can't really know for sure if other people have consciousness. So, you know, I can only really say that I am the only person with consciousness.
I see. Okay.
Everybody says they have
Yeah. So everyone's thinking that maybe everyone else doesn't exist, and they might be the only one. It's very silly. Yeah, these things. Usually, when you really start to analyze these philosophies, they fall apart pretty quickly.
You can put it wrong.
So how would you put it wrong?
I mean, everybody, I think like.
You almost grabbed your phone to use
Like this is not true.
Yeah, there's a fallacy that if everybody's saying I am a soul, but then that means nobody else is a soul, but then everyone's saying it. So
Yeah.
it can't; those two things can't exist. Like it's it's just, it's a double negative.
Yeah. Oh, and then what? And then what do you do? That's the other question. It's like, okay, so I'm the only one here. Now what? Sounds really boring. Yeah.
You can come over to the person, slap them in the face, and say, "I don't exist." So why would you feel bad? And also, since we were discussing the self-esteem and humility, I wanted to bring out what Campbell always says: humility is not thinking about less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less.
Yeah.
So we should never think less of ourselves.
Right, right. Oh, you're just fixing your chatter there. Anyone else have okay.
So thank you for the press conference. No, I really like this point. I think it's in the Bhagavad Gita, and a purporter of Prabhupada brings it up that impersonalism is psychologically motivated by our negative experiences that we've had in personal interactions in this
Right.
world. So now I'm thinking maybe an extension of that point is that we all have to, well, maybe I can ask you and then what's your opinion? But Prabhupada also always stressed that health is very important.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this is one of those things that he actually said, or if it's just falsely attributed to him, but the whole health sadhana service thing, did he actually say that?
I don't know.
Not sure. But
Advaita might know.
did Prabhupada actually say health and then sadhana and service, or is it?
Yeah, we can look it up. Yeah.
But I mean, but Prabhupada did want his disciples to take care of his health, of their health. At least we can say that. So wouldn't mental health also be a part of that? So then we should make some efforts to work through whatever psychological scarring we might have, and not just say, okay, I'm gonna chant.
Right. Well, I always say, in order to chant japa, you have to have favorable circumstances, right? So you got to go to bed early, get up early, be awake, not have your phone and be distracted. Your also mind has to be ready to do it. So to me, going to therapy or something like that to help with those psychological issues is getting yourself prepped to chant japa, right? Because japa is the crux of everything. You chant japa, it removes your anartas, it brings you closer to Krishna, it helps you to remember that you have a relationship with Krishna. He starts to reveal himself, but you have to be healthy enough to do it. So if you're super exhausted, it's like I decided to only sleep 1 hour, then you're not ready to chant japa. It's very difficult. If you have psychological issues that you can't overcome, then you can't chant japa because all you're doing is thinking about those things. And so it's just kind of prepping the field physically, emotionally, mentally. It's just prepping the field so that you can chant the japa, so that you can get purified, so that you can come closer to Krishna. So I just see it as one of the many paths to health and being ready to chant. And then sometimes hand in hand, because it's not like you have to get all that stuff done first. You start chanting, and the difficulties that you're having, you go to the doctor and use different kinds of doctors. And so, when we were all coughing up a lung in Georgia, it's there's the hard thing is to chant, right? You're sitting there. I remember Bruce in his sleeping bag with his little like water bottle, and just like, it's very difficult. So what do you want to do? You want to get better so that chanting, you have more energy to chant. And so you'll take cough syrup, you'll take all these things to try. So what's the difference? What's the difference between taking cough syrup so you could have the energy to chant, or going to see someone about some traumatic issues you've been through so that you can, so it becomes easier to chant. So it's not a substitute. It's just, I said, prepping yourself to be able to do that, making it easier. You don't want to make it harder. We don't start chanting our rounds at 10 o'clock at night and say, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm exhausted. It doesn't, no, we try to pick the best time to do it in the best circumstances and environment. So your mind is an environment. And Ravina Sri Prabhu says that there's three things when you chant: the mind, Krishna, and you, like your japa, it's just chanting, there's Krishna, and there's the mind. So you really, the mind is the biggest thing you have to deal with. You're not trying to deal with your analytical intelligence while you chant. You're dealing with your mind. Your mind is attacking you. It's all over the place. Of course, intelligence is required. If you're tired, you can't focus. And intelligence is required to focus. So that's why we get proper sleep, because then our intelligence is more sharp. We can actually focus. But the mind is just all over the place. And I've seen, like when I said it goes hand in hand, I have had people call me and they're having a really hard time dealing with a particular person. And sometimes the first thing I'll ask is, well, how was your japa today? Oh, I got up late and it was really hard to chant. So I said, well, just try, go to bed early tonight and get up early and chant your rounds. And then let's talk about those issues. And I had the experience where someone said, I can't even remember what the issues were I had with this person. She got up, she chanted around. She's like, I don't even remember what it was. It's so insignificant. So sometimes the mind attacks more. So if you do them both hand in hand, if you're going to therapy or something and you're chanting it, they both are reducing those difficulties at the same time. Does that answer? Okay, it's after 8:30. I guess if there's any other points you can discuss during breakfast or in the, actually, I think that's breakfast coming in. What perfect timing. Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.